You're listening to the N2K Space Network.
Imagine a world where you're always one step ahead of cyber threats, where your defenses are impenetrable because you see what others don't. Welcome to Team Cymru's Threat Intelligence Solutions. With real-time access to the world's largest threat intelligence data ocean, they enable you to turn the tables on attackers. Transform your security from reactive to proactive through accelerated threat hunting and incident response, made possible through automation. Empower your team with visibility and insights to start defending your organization like never before. Team Cymru. Be the hunter, not the hunted. Learn more at team-cymru.com/cyberwire. That's team-cymru.com/cyberwire.
You know, we wouldn't have the internet if it weren't for DARPA. Well, it was ARPA at the time, and it was called ARPANET, but in any case, as a professional internet user, I'm grateful. And it might just be thanks to DARPA again that we might one day get some additional very cool technology. How's about a moon train? Yeah, that's what I said. A moon train.
T-minus 20 seconds to LOS speed rest. Go for deploy. Roger roll.
Today is March 20th, 2024. I'm Maria Varmazis, and this is T-minus. DARPA tasks Northrop Grumman to design a lunar railroad network. Intelsat to expand partnership with Eutelsat. Blue Ring to join the Dark Sky 1 demonstration mission. And our guests today are Alex Pospekhov and Alexey Shirobokov of Mission Space. We're going to be discussing their new endeavor to monitor space weather, so stick around for the second half of the show. What else do you even need to say for today's top story other than this? Moon train. Northrop Grumman's making a concept study about a possible moon train for DARPA's 10-year Lunar Architecture Capability Study, or Luna 10. So what could a possible lunar railroad do? Well, much of what a railroad does here on Earth, of course, transporting humans, supplies, and resources, but moon-flavored. Exactly how feasible is this locomotive moonshot? What would it cost? How would it be designed? How the heck do you place a track system on regolith? Those are great questions. Glad you asked. And there are no answers yet because this is what Northrop Grumman has been tasked to figure out. The idea behind this moon train study and other studies that are part of DARPA's Luna 10 project is to quickly figure out the infrastructure needed for long-term, scalable, and interoperable systems on the moon. Dr. Michael Nyack, program manager in DARPA's Strategic Technology Office, makes this comparison. Just like DARPA's foundational node of ARPANET grew into the sprawling web of the internet, Luna 10 is looking for those connective nodes to support a thriving commercial economy on the moon. One day, if there's ever a moon train, that can only lead to one thing: lunar rail fans. You heard it here first. Okay. Communications giant Intelsat has announced an expanded partnership with Eutelsat Group related to that company's OneWeb low Earth orbit constellation. According to the press release, the deal is a significant development for multi-orbit satellite connectivity solutions and positions Intelsat at the forefront of the next wave in global connectivity. And they're not shying away from investing in this expansion. The arrangement provides a commitment of $250 million for LEO service over the first 6 years, with an option for an additional $250 million. Intelsat says it will cooperate with Eutelsat in the development of its next-generation OneWeb constellation, providing direct design and functionality input to help ensure the new constellation will have the capabilities to meet real-world customer needs. Some big news coming out of the satellite conference in Washington, D.C. this week, and SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell told satellite attendees that the company has started selling satellite lasers to competitors. SpaceX's thousands of Starlink satellites in low Earth orbit use inter-satellite laser links to pass data between one another in space at the speed of light, allowing the network to offer broader internet coverage around the world with fewer ground stations. SpaceX is reportedly already in talks with multiple customers to sell those components. Space robotics company Gitai has completed all planned tasks in an external demonstration focusing on in-space servicing assembly and manufacturing, also known as ISAM. The tasks were accomplished using a 1.5-meter-long autonomous dual robotic arm system outside of the International Space Station. This milestone marks Gitai's second successful demonstration. And although all tasks for the demonstration have been completed, reliability evaluation tests will continue for the remaining 5 months of the 6-month demonstration period. Blue Origin has announced that they will demonstrate Blue Ring's mission operation capabilities and core flight systems on an upcoming Defense Innovation Unit-sponsored launch. The Dark Sky 1 mission, or DS-1, will demonstrate Blue Origin's flight systems, including space-based processing capabilities, telemetry, tracking and command hardware, and ground-based radiometric tracking. The DS-1 mission is a collaboration between Blue Origin and DIU for in-flight validation of Blue Ring's orbital payload and mission operation capabilities under an other transaction agreement. The mission is expected to be launched co-manifested on the upper stage of a future national security space launch. The launch service provider and specific time frame have not been disclosed. Last night, Astrobotics Propulsion and Test Department flew a vertical takeoff, vertical landing, reusable terrestrial rocket called Zodiac for its first ever night flight. The tethered night test prepared Zodiac for upcoming flight testing with the NASA Tech Leap Prize's Nighttime Precision Landing Challenge. Tech Leap is designed to rapidly identify and develop technologies of interest to the agency using a series of challenges. And the Nighttime Precision Landing Challenge will test the ability of 3 winning payloads to map a lunar surface for navigation in near total darkness. Super cool. The Nighttime Precision Landing Challenge flights will also mark the debut of Astrobotics' Lunar Surface Proving Ground, a high-fidelity 3D test field that will mimic the topography and optical properties of the moon's surface. You really got to check out the video in the show notes for this one. The lunar surface pad under the test fire looked super cool. Airbus has been awarded a contract to design and build the Gracie twin spacecraft by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL. The Gracie mission stands for Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment Continuity. And Gracie will continue the series of measurements observing how Earth's groundwater, oceans, ice sheets, and land shift month to month by measuring changes in the planet's gravity field. This new mission of NASA's and the German space agencies at the German Aerospace Center, or DLR, will strengthen the more than 20-year-long partnership between the USA and Germany to ensure uninterrupted measurement of the Earth's gravity field, which started in 2002 with GRACE and continues with GRACE Follow-On, launched in 2018. Airbus Defence and Space in Friedrichshafen will design, build, and deliver the GRACE C satellites to the launch site, including launch and early orbit phase support for NASA JPL. The mission itself will be operated by the German Space Operations Center of DLR. Staying in Europe now, and the European Space Agency has signed contracts with several European companies for a total amount of 233 million euros to develop Genesis and a LEO PNT demonstrator, 2 new missions with the Future Nav program that they say will keep Europe at the forefront of satellite navigation worldwide. A consortium of 14 entities is tasked with developing, manufacturing, qualifying, calibrating, launching, and operating the Genesis satellite, including all of its payloads. The mission is supported by Italy, Belgium, France, Switzerland, Hungary, and the UK, and the Genesis satellite itself is planned to launch in 2028. 2 parallel contracts of 78.4 million euros each have been signed for 2 end-to-end low Earth orbit positioning, navigation, and timing, otherwise known as LEO PNT, in-orbit demonstrators. The contracts include the design and development of satellites and payloads, ground segment, test user segment, and satellite launches, operations, experimentation, and demonstration of services with end users. And European satellite company Swiss 212 has announced its continued global expansion. The company has secured additional production space at its headquarters in Switzerland and has also added several new SATCOM engineers to its growing team, which has grown by 25% since the beginning of 2024 to over 125 employees at locations in Switzerland, Europe, and the United States. Oh, okay, that was a lot to tackle in one briefing. If you want to learn more about any of the stories I mentioned in today's report, you'll find links to further reading in the show notes. We've also included a warning from the Space Force on China's plans to take out U.S. satellites, and a report from the Times of India on why astronauts age slower in space. Curiouser and curiouser. Hey, T-Minus crew, if you find this podcast useful, and as always, we hope that you do, please do us a favor and share a 5-star rating and a short review in your favorite podcast app. That will help other space professionals like you to find the show and join the T-Minus crew. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it. Our guests today are Alex Pospekhov and Alexey Shirobokov of Mission Space, a company focusing on space weather monitoring.
My name is Alexey Shirobokov. I'm a co-founder of Mission Space. It's funny how we ended up in space tech. So my background is more on consulting and economic side. So I spent almost my entire career working in management consultancy. And at some point, I got opportunity to join Mission Space with an idea came up from Alex.
Very cool. All right. Well, Alex, tell me about yourself.
My name is Alex Pospekhov. I'm one of the founders of the Mission Space. Last 19 years, I've spent developing different tech businesses. And 4 years ago, it's happened more than 4 years ago. Our technical team came to me with the idea that, we've been doing some interesting thing in space for 30 years. You're a good expert in the tech. So can we, merge it with each other? This is how Mission Space was born.
Alexey, please give us the pitch for Mission Space.
Mission Space is a space weather data analytics company. We are trying to elevate space weather forecasting at a new level, let customers be able to forecast space weather consequences for space-based and ground-based assets with a very high precision, with the ability to mitigate it and to save costs and mitigate the risks of operations for their businesses.
Space weather is something I feel like we don't know enough about it. It's something we hear about, we don't know enough about yet. It certainly has some adverse effects, but again, we don't know a whole lot about it. So, okay, Alex, to you, why space weather and what is Mission Space going to do to address the challenges of space weather?
Space weather, one of the major things which you need to consider if the humankind want to develop new space economy. This domain has been developed in the last, since the beginning of the space era. But the more we rely ourselves on tech, the more space assets we have, the more complex strategies for going to space we have, the more we need to be aware of this thing. Why it's happening now? That's because just in the last, I don't remember the proper numbers, but now, as far as I think, we have 7,000 satellites, which 5 or 6 are Starlink. So if we're going to have 30,000 satellites in the upcoming years, we need to have automated solutions. We need to work with the space weather. And of course, all of you seen For the All Humankind, second season or third, which begins with solar flare and people on the moon, running to the shelter. So it's not a joke. This is in the reality how the things gonna happen. So just like shortly answering, why the space weather is so crucial now. And our team been involved in development of the space weather solutions in the last more than 30 or 40 years. From the times when, sensors were size of the bus. And now you can feed it in your own hand. Yeah.
So your company is based in Luxembourg, and that's got to be an incredible place to be doing any kind of space mission. Alexey, can you tell me a little bit about, being in Luxembourg, sort of the ecosystem for space companies there? I mean, I know it's fantastic, so I'm just curious about your experience.
I think it's not very well known that Luxembourg is active in space, small country in the middle of Europe. But in reality, the SES, the largest Luxembourgish company, was one of the first Europe which provided telecommunication signal back in the 80s. And after that, Luxembourg introduced space mining legislation, regulation on mining space resources. That led to building the large ecosystem around the space here in Luxembourg. And I believe that more people per capita here in space than in any other country.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, but it's interesting. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, as it's a small country, it's easy to reach any governmental officials to where the importance of the job are doing. Luxembourg is really business-oriented approach from the government helps the company to navigate the market as well and have tremendous support from different governmental levels. And as long as Luxembourg is part of ESA, it also opens some doors in intergovernmental collaboration and collaboration with ESA. And if you look at the other Luxembourgish companies, you will see moon mission developers. You will see CubeSat, SmallSat developers, and then new startups in space situational awareness also founded in Luxembourg. And really, we have very friendly, very robust space ecosystem. We are based incubated here in Luxembourg, and we have 3 companies here. We have in space tech, we have Hydrosat, we have ClearSpace. It's just in an arm's reach to talk to different people, to share our experience.
That is really cool. Alex, is there anything you wanted to add to that? I want to make sure I give you a chance to.
Yeah, it's interesting story. Nobody talks about how the space actually developed in Luxembourg. So, that Luxembourg was a rural country. They found ore back in the 19th century, and the steel industry began booming. After this, they became very good engineers in terms of building like big radio towers. And this is how RTL radio started. So they started radio broadcasting in different languages, and they built a very, very high radio tower and started to broadcast English radio to London. If you remember the film like Rock Boat or Rock FM, when it was like pirate station, so the Luxembourg did the same thing. After radio, it was television. And when they had this RTL production, when they had like people in Europe, they started to figure out how can we distribute the television signal in a different way. This is how the SES was born back in the 70s. So everything
know that.
everything happened. Yeah, everything happened because they accidentally found ore here 100 years ago.
That engineering heritage sort of carried forward in a very unexpected but interesting way. That's really neat. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. That's really cool. Tell me a little bit about the technology that you're developing, like what you do, how it works. Alexey?
Sure. See, the interesting thing that currently we have acquired, I would say, dinosaur hardware on orbit. I would say that we had a couple of large satellites, small satellites with detectors, but really detached data gathering infrastructure. So we came up with the idea that we have to connect every source of available data from the ground and from orbit assets in one database. So we name it Data Lake. and apply ML capabilities to that. So use AI forecasting system. And now we successfully started our collaboration with the Luxembourgish high-performance computer, Milzina, to develop this kind of data lake. And we trying to reach different labs, different scientific groups on the ground, so we can directly connect our system to their detectors and have as many data points as we can. And the second pillar of our system is our own constellation of 24 satellites, which will be able to nowcast information and cover Earth with enough data points so we can extrapolate the data and provide precise forecasting for that, and trying to isolate the events from the whole Earth level to the areas on the ground until affected areas or affected orbits, if we're speaking about space, that some kind of event will impact their region in a particular time frame. And a combination of these two pillars and ability to collect enough data points have to enable us to run the new scientific method for precise prediction.
Space weather is just one of those things that is so fascinating to me. It's just, and I know we're still learning so much about it, and it's so important in terms of how it can affect our assets on orbit. So it's just a really cool technology that you all are developing. I'm curious, what's coming up next? Like, what are you working on now? What can we expect from you all in the future? Alex, do you want to take that one?
So we're in the process, as Alexey said, now we're developing and launching our constellation. At first, we see that we need to have 24 satellites to be able to launch real-time nowcasting, forecasting services. It's like the first part of what are we going to do. We're constantly developing like new tools, so new payloads, new sensors, which can generate more data. As our chief scientist said, there will be never enough data for me. The more tools we have, the more data we have. So the more precise models we can do. Of course, like big ideas that we think about is sending something to the moon. It's still very hard. And you've seen in the last time one of these moon missions that failed. And I'm speaking about that we need to land something on the moon. Of course, it's going to be like perfect, but we of course want to measure what's going on the moon, because there is still no systematic approach to measure what's going on. So yeah, like next step for us was developing payloads and sending more to space.
That makes sense to me. All right. Anything else that you wanted to mention about Mission Space before we conclude? I wanted to sort of give you the podium, so to speak.
We have some understanding. So that the next, I'll do that. Our technology at some point can enable the new scientific approaches and new technologies. So the thing that people really don't understand is like if we're able to use our system at a full scale, it will allow us to track the Earth's magnetic field in a real time. And the consequence is we as humanity can utilize the new technology connected, for example, to very precise geopositioning system, not related to GPS and something like that. And so we will be able to position ourselves just understanding the geomagnetic field. And it will lead to new technologies, new software, and the way we operate. It's interesting that we talk to people from Breakthrough Prize Initiative, and they are putting their effort on developing this kind of positioning system. And we believe that we can contribute to that at some point.
We say that space weather data is still very rare. It's usually what we have right now. Our scientific understanding came from historical data. And if we launch our constellation, or even like half of our constellation, if we're going to work for 2 years, we will generate more data in the one specific domain, of course. So more data from our payload that been generated for the whole history of the humankind, or in the last 60 years from the same payload. So you can imagine, usually now you have like megabytes of data per day from similar systems, and we'll be able to generate gigabytes data per day from similar systems. It's just show you, that we are at our beginning of understanding, the real processes, and which will help us, as Alexey said, to unlock new technologies and new ways of doing things.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. We started our show with news of a moon train study. But if we will actually ever see a moon train in reality is a good question. For those eager to see lunar transportation IRL, fear not. We have news of a very real LTV coming up in April. An LTV that would be a lunar terrain vehicle. Mark your calendars, April 3rd in Houston, NASA will announce the company or companies it is selecting to develop its LTV for the Artemis program. The LTV is the next generation of the LRV, which would be the Boeing-built lunar roving vehicles or moon buggy built for Apollo 15, 16, and 17. The LRVs or moon buggies each traveled roughly 30 kilometers on the lunar surface, give or take, with Apollo 17's LRV-3 going the furthest at 35.74 kilometers. And it's thanks to the remotely operated camera mounted on the front of Apollo 17's LRV-3 that we have that fantastic video of the launch and ascent of the Apollo 17 lunar module. And there is actually an LRV-4, which would have gone on Apollo 18 had that mission gone ahead. And instead, you can see it today at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex in Cape Canaveral. It'll be very interesting to compare and contrast the LRV with the LTV once we learn more details from NASA. That's it for T-Minus for March 20th, 2024. For additional resources from today's report, check out our show notes at space.n2k.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. You can email us at space@n2k.com or submit the survey in the show notes. Your feedback ensures that we deliver the information that keeps you a step ahead in the rapidly changing space industry. N2K Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. This episode was produced by Alice Carruth. Mixing by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our associate producer is Liz Stokes. Our executive producer is Jen Iben. Our VP is Brandon Karpf. And I'm Maria Varmazis. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you tomorrow.
T-minus.
We know there's an experience gap in cybersecurity, and companies are often enamored with the idea of building teams of superstars. But focusing on a team of unicorns just feeds the talent gap. Join N2K's Simone Petrella and Intuit's Kim Jones on Wednesday, March 27th for an online discussion about the pivotal role security leaders play in shaping the security workforce landscape and how we can start showing up for the future of our industry. Visit our show notes for details and to register.